Hello, everybody. We are back again. Can you believe it? Another episode here. Our first season with this European-based team, and Australia, of course, if Nathan Walker's around. Now, last episode, of course, not too many major things happened. We went through free agency. We ended up getting Tomas Tatar. And yes, I tried to get David Pastrnak again, and it didn't work, which is why we're going to try again. No, we're not. We're not going to try again. We're going to let that go. And we are going to resign to the fact that Necas, Hischier, Stützle, and Zadina, for the short term, are the big four that we're going to build around. So the forward core this year, in terms of our top players, solid. However, you would have seen this defense is tragic, which is why I am fully giving up on the idea of going after anybody else. And I want to see who is out there. Yes, likely reacquiring Moritz Seider as well, but I want to see who's out there that we could potentially pick up. Of course, Zadorov is Russian. I was hoping for some reason it'd be like Estonian or something, even though I knew that wasn't the case, just because we do have an extreme shortage of options. I could look to get already developed prospects, but for the most part, I think we'll let them develop in other systems, and then we'll pick them up when the time comes. So you can see right now, I mean, I don't believe I've missed anybody. Like, Andrei Sekera is not really going to help, is he? I mean, a 78 overall. I mean, Jesus, when Andrei Sekera would technically help out this defense. We'll trade Malta Setkov. I don't know if that'll be enough. You never know with the trading here, but my goodness, when Andrei Sekera improves a team. There we go. Maybe even could have gotten more. Andre, welcome aboard. Happy to have you here. We get rid of Malta Setkov, who was a 22-year-old, 60 overall player. He wasn't going to develop. Now, Detroit has the one guy that I probably want the most, and Roenick. Cholowski's Canadian, of course. I want Philip Roenick. I do. He's arguably the best defensive player that we're going to be able to get in the short term, and you might have seen when I looked at the forwards, there is somebody in Teddy Bluger who I like a lot, but let's be honest, that value is through the roof, and we need to make the most of that value right now. I mean, look at that. That trade should be close to going through on its own. We will definitely try to pick Horde as much as we can. I actually want to play it even more safe than that, even though the bars are pretty close, because we completely crippled our team in terms of draft picks to try and go out and get the big fish. So we have some recovery time ahead of us in terms of getting some, lesser picks back in the meantime. We'll take off a fourth there. Not enough. Let's take off a fifth. How about another fourth? Okay, straight up. All right, so they'll do straight up at least. Again, let's try to make this happen. I'll add a fifth. So maybe a sixth. Even if it's a seventh, I'll take it. So one for one, Bluger for Roenick will work. We can't even get the seventh to work, but a 1-for-1 will work. That is a no-brainer. Teddy Bluger, see you later. Hate to lose you there for the third line, but we get our new number one defenseman in Philip Roenick, which makes Philip Zadina, Michael Frolik apparently as well, quite happy, and others. So that's good. People view him as a quality player, which for our defense he absolutely is. Do we have anybody else? I still can't believe Mackenzie Weegar's only an 83. I am so excited for NHL 22. If you didn't see my reveal trailer breakdown, make sure to check that out. And, of course, I answered a lot of questions in the comments as well. That said, I can't wait to get back to roster editing. Cannot wait. Going to be fantastic to, for the first time, and I mean, pretty much the entirety of this year, right? Like, I haven't been able to play franchise mode the way I like to play it, with what I consider more accurate rosters. And man, I got the itch. I thought, honestly, I thought at this point, I'm like, maybe I won't want to do it ever again after I take a break. And nope, still want to do it. New Jersey, Michael Vukievich is Canadian, apparently. All right, well. The Islanders, nobody. The Rangers, nobody. Because, Ryan Lindgren's American. Woof. This is rough. They also had Dougie Hamilton. Okay, so there's Moritz Seider. We'll try to get him back from the Sens. They also have Artem Dadonov. We might have to trade. I mean, I don't know if we could trade for that kid, but we might have to. Just because we need a defenseman, and he can easily be our number one defenseman. Artem Zub is Russian. I mean, I don't know if I have the assets to pull off a trade like this, but we have to try. In terms of the forwards, Andre Palat could technically go here. I want to try to use Toby Reeder instead, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We just signed Tatar. Palat and Reeder could go, and it would be Necas, Hischier, Stützle, Zadina, Tatar, Vrana. And if it means improving our defense, I think we got to do it. Plus, Palat's on an expiring deal. So we'll do that. That should more than cover the value of Moritz Seider. And then, obviously, we're still going to have to give up something. You could argue instead, give up one of our forwards, which, to be honest, it would be Zadina that goes, and then keep Palat. Or it's get rid of draft picks. They do want our first this year. I don't blame them. I think Philip Zadina might have to go. Maybe we keep Andre Palat instead. Zadina for Dadonov. Reeder for Seider. We're going to have to add a little bit more. But that way it's Necas, Hischier, Stützle, Tatar, Palat, and Vrana. I think we got to do it. I like Philip Zadina a lot, but this is clearly me basically giving up on the idea of getting David Pastrnak. This still might not go through. But when there is a player available like that defender, I have to go for them. So Vancouver's second. Is that enough? It is not. We're going to have to give up a decent amount to get this. I don't think a third will be enough. It will be. Okay, so we can actually get that done relatively easily. So the way to view it, yes, Philip Zadina is great. We need a number one defenseman. And Artem Dadonov can clearly be that number one defenseman. And then Reeder for Seider to, again, improve the defense, add in a second and a third. That is pretty much a done deal. Let's see if we can keep that third round pick and use a fourth instead. All right, so I think 2 fourths instead of a third would work. No. All right, so it does have to be the lone third round pick we have left in 2027. Done deal, though. So, Philip Zadina, again, hate to see you go. Apparently, I'm going to get in trouble for flipping Toby Reeder, but whatever. So, the goaltending now is Grubauer, Mrazek, and Vanacek. We'll trade Vanacek for extra picks. Ronik, Gudis. We will call up Seider and Dadonov here. Send down Mueller, Siegenthaler, Weber. We'll also call up Andre Sekera. And I'd be under the minimum skater limit, so let's take Yannick Weber out of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That defense is looking much better. And then forward-wise, we have our 10. And we would need... So, see, this is where like this depth that we have can come into play. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the top 6. The third line could be shaping up to be Michael Frolik, who is pretty valuable for us here. Dennis Malgin. And, I mean, I guess you could argue Marco Dano, if we still want to go with that physical idea. I think we call up one physical player. We can have Malgin and Frolik on that third line. Have Dano as a more physical option. Kuhn Hackl as well. Okay, so let's look for a skill guy here. And the best skill guy available could arguably be Michael Grabner, if not Sven Berchke or Richard Panik. Grabner obviously has the speed. I think we give Sven Berchke the opportunity. And then for the fourth line, what do we want to go for here? Belmar? Gergensons? Let's go for Pierre-Edouard Belmar to get that call up. We might not be done in terms of acquiring defensemen, but there is no doubt that we have significantly improved this team, despite having gotten rid of Philip Zadina. And yeah, that combination of this team is still pretty solid. And then it's Hischier, Necas, Stützle as kind of the future of the team. Our coaching staff is still an outright unmitigated disaster, though. It's so bad. Let's see if there's anybody else that kind of fits the bill for what we're looking for. I'm not holding my breath. There are very, very few options that we can actually acquire on defense. That's kind of part of this challenge here. I don't think we have anybody else. Chatfield, Rathbone. We might have a better defense than the Canucks, which is hilarious. I think that's it outside of Radim Simic, who we had looked at before. So I think, and then there was Kempney and Fehervari. Is Simic that big of an improvement? 2, 3, 4, 5. It would drop Sekera down. So not really. So we'll hold on to our assets from there. Aside from maybe the goaltending swap. We'll move on from Vitek Vanacek. Vegas is apparently interested. Let me see what I can get. I mean, a third rounder is going to be actually maybe good. Maybe a third and a fourth. How about just a third? Really? I want at least a third rounder for him. What if it's him and a sixth for a third? Just a bit low, they say. I haven't missed those words. Sixth and a seventh. Okay, so we move on from Vitek Vanacek just to get something of value for him. It pissed off the team a little bit, but that's okay. Aside from that, I think we're good. So let's go ahead, fully set up this team. I like the idea of the young guys being on the same line. I mean, we can't seemingly get more than a +1 anyway. So, yeah. We might as well just go with all the young guys on the same line. Although, I mean, Tatar can play center. He just can't do it well. Yeah, maybe we go for a different setup there. All these guys pretty much have 88 offensive awareness. So we'll go Tatar, Hischier, Necas, Palat, Stützle, Vrana, Frolik, Malgin, and Berchke. Works for me. And a fourth line of Marco Dano, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, Tom Kuhnhackl. The defense, we can make work. We can really make work. Okay. That works for me. So Roenick and Dadonov as the top pair. We'll have Spiza with Sekera, the Andre Sekera. And Moritz Seider will be with Radko Gudas. It's a much better team. That is the only way to put it. It is a much, 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 much better team. The question is, do they sim well? The question is, do we want them to sim well? Because it would reduce the value of our picks, which would suck. But we also don't have that many picks right now. So it's kind of a catch-22 here, I suppose. I don't really know if we want to change anything about the roster. We'll sim to December 1st. We'll take a look and kind of see what happens from there. We'll leave it as perhaps a bit of a secret as to whether or not there's anybody in the draft. I haven't looked. We'll look a little bit later on, perhaps. But, I mean, 8-10-1 is maybe about as good as you could have expected for this roster. 10-12-1. We are pretty far back already. Verana's leading this team in points. Tatar, oof. All right, Tatar, Hischier, Necas is not working. We don't really have a natural goal scorer on that top line. Sven Berchke has sucked with Denis Malgin and Michael Frolik. The fourth line's been okay, but we need to change up this team desperately. I mean, you could argue, like, drop Thomas Tatar, but I don't really want to do that. The best goal scorers have been Vrana and Stützle, so we'll swap them. I do not know what the answer is here. Maybe swapping Malgin for Dano, just to see if anything kind of crazy can happen. Might as well go for it. The defense will pretty much keep the same no matter what. And goaltending-wise, Grubauer has been abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. Yikes. Well, I mean, I figured maybe Grubauer would be the guy for us. Maybe not. Moving forward, we might have to get a little bit lucky in terms of finding a goalie for the future. I mean, as we know in this game, you don't need a crazy high overall goaltender. So after an extra month, we're on 34 points. We are 10 points out of a playoff spot. Verana still leading this team in goals. Hischier, Necas, Tatar, Stützle, Palat. We could mix and match line combos, but let's be honest, this team just doesn't have it right now. Let's get to the deadline. And I think the deadline will be very important because, again, we'll be able to look around and see if magically there's a team that's maybe doing something dumb and offering certain players that they shouldn't. At least that's what I'm hoping for. But, yeah, for the most part, yeah, we're not there yet. We're hanging in around 500. And, again, I think that's about the best that we could hope for. So we tried to shortcut it by getting the best superstars we could. And instead, now it's like hard mode's on. So let's see who is out there. As Oliver Ekman-Larsson's on the block. He is not someone I'm interested in. But for skaters matching the block overall-wise, I guess you could argue maybe look to pick up prospects too if they're available, but there really isn't anyone available. Chalmerson's Swedish. There's nobody there. Boston. Okay, Boston's not trying to do anything overly dumb. I don't believe anyone's available there. There's a trade at the bottom, but don't really have time to view it. I guess I do need a Niederreiter, Mark-Edouard Vlasic. Svozil is a prospect I'd love to get, but he's a low 4, so I'm not holding my breath that he'll develop either. Damn. It's got to be someone. Dylan Larkin's getting shopped. That obviously doesn't help us at all. Anton Lundell gets off Mata Goligoski. Matt Zuccarello is being shopped here. Interesting. That might be our one play with Minnesota. We'll keep that in mind because right now there is nobody else on a cheaper deal. Unfortunately, the Islanders look like they're blowing it up. Jasu's got to be Finnish. Yeah, he's one of those guys where he has that rating for no logical reason whatsoever. EA just decided he's good and was drafted highly. Pulinovs. Tomas Hertl is available. Now, he's someone that I mentioned before. Didn't really plan on targeting, but he and Zook are both available. And I think it would be a dumb move to not go for them. Let's hope they're not moved here before I can do that. You got SDA, Hollander. Hertl was just moved. You got to be joking. Right as I say that, he immediately gets dealt to Anaheim. Even if I had been like, oh yeah, shit, let's get him, I couldn't have put a deal together in time. That's a swift kick to the balls. There was a prospect by the name of Glebov and Riley, so maybe we'll look for Vegas's prospects instead. Unless Anaheim is interested in moving. And he's not. Okay, well, or they're not. So, I can't get Tomas Hertl, but I can potentially get Matt Zuccarello on a decent deal here. I don't know for what, though. I mean, I wouldn't mind moving Malgin, who, actually, Malgin's picked up the points. Frolik hasn't been that bad. It would have to be a draft pick. It would have to be a future second-round pick. I don't believe that'll go through on its own, and it won't. We really lack valuable assets. I mean, you could say move on from Philip Grubauer. Use Grubauer to get this deal done. I don't know if Minnesota needs him or wants him, but It's not as if Grubauer's been incredible for us so far, and it's better than losing an extra draft pick. So Grubauer in a third's not enough. What about... Oh my god, we are just so barren in terms of draft picks. Whew. How about a fourth? Let's do it. We'll trade Philip Grubauer for in a third and a fourth for Matt Zuccarello. Done deal. And the other trade I liked, I said I wasn't going to get prospects, but considering there are so few options, unless St. Louis destroys me here, and they didn't, we'll go over to Vegas, and they had 2 prospects that I kind of like in Riley and Gleboff, that we can hopefully get essentially 2 for the price of 1 with the second round pick down the road. Will that go through? It will not. That's not surprising. But 2 second round picks for 2 guaranteed prospects, as opposed to wishful thinking, looks pretty good to me. We'll safety net this a little bit. Will this go through? No. What if we take out an extra third and add in a fourth? No. What if we just take out the fourth? Okay, so there we go. So 2 second round picks for 2 prospects from the Vegas Golden Knights. I really wish I could make a play for Tomas Hertl, but I cannot. Unfortunately, Anaheim kind of beat us to the punch, which means we are done here on trade deadline day. There's really nothing else that we can do. So we'll see what kind of big trades roll through. Tolvanen and Dickinson for a first and plus. Derek, what a shock. Boston ended up with Derek Forbort anyway, and he ends up on waivers. That's not great, is it? So this new team, then, we do get rid of Grubauer. Kivlenix is there to be the backup. And indeed he will be. Defensively, Dadonov, Seider, Hronek, Gudas, Spiza, Sakara. Other guys have bounced back. How good has Andrei Sakara been? Not very, but we'll leave him. And then forward-wise, we have 10, 11, 12, 13 now. So we can send down a dude. Kuhnhackl, I mean, honestly, like, Kuhnhackl, Dano, Belmar weren't that bad as a fourth line. Malgin's putting up points. Frolik's putting up points. I think it's got to probably be Sven Berchke. Malgin has over 30 points. Frolik has 26. Yeah, I don't know if I want to lose Sven Berchke, but we can go best lines, and actually best lines takes him out by default, so that's perfect. So we'll reunite what was the fourth line from earlier this season. Frolik and Malgin can be on the third line, and we're going to have to figure out who else is going to join them. To be honest, I think we'll just base it off of performance. So Stützle's crushing it. Andre Palat's crushing it, though, too. Natchez on 39 points. There really isn't anybody there that's doing a poor job. There really isn't. 78 face-off, 76. So these are the 3 that I think we'd want to run at center. Let's do Natchez, Stützle, Hischier, which is some damn good insulation. We'll put Frolik on the third line. That's all playmakers, so obviously one of the snipers has to go down. Who has more goals? I mean, it's been Verana. And between the playmakers, so there we go. That works for me. Get Verana for the one-time idea. I mean, it's certainly a better team than what we've had at different points. And obviously, well, let's take a look here. Dodonov's good. Gudas can play second line. Most of these guys. So Gudas and Spiza, in theory, should have been a good boost. Dadonov can still play with Hronek. Do we want that 3 or do... I'm going to go for the +1 to get more at Seider on a higher line. So we make more changes to the team. I'm intrigued to know what you guys think. You know, again, we give up the idea of the big fish player. That Tomas Hertl move, though, I think is going to haunt me for a little bit.